Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is former CNN host and author of Hoax, Brian Stelter. Brian, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's a busy day. It's a historic day for cable news. I do want to talk about news both from CNN and Fox. First, let's start with Fox and the historic departure of the network's top-rated host, Tucker Carlson. What's your reaction to the abrupt departure?
Clearly, Tucker Carlson is not leaving by choice. He was ousted from Fox News, and so was his longtime top producer. It's a staggering development because Carlson was in some ways even bigger than Fox. He had the highest ratings of the network. He had incredible amounts of power. He could basically do whatever he wanted, or so it seemed. This moment shows that ultimately it was not Tucker in charge, it was Fox, and it is Fox. And of course, the belief over at Fox News is they are so much bigger than any single star. So this moment, the dismissal of Carlson, is going to test that theory once and for all.
You know, this reminds me of similar conversations to when Bill O'Reilly was ousted from Fox and people said, what's the network going to do? Who do you see right now? I know it's very early. We're just hours after the news, but emerging as the next Tucker Carlson, the next Bill O'Reilly, that next face of Fox.
I haven't thought about it yet, so I'm going to give you my raw reactions to that question. The people that come to my mind are Jesse Waters, who right now is the lead-in for Tucker at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Jesse Waters comes to mind. I think he kind of personifies a lot of what Fox is in the Biden years and could be in the future. So he's the first name that pops into my head. I would like to see Fox elevate one of their female personalities because they don't have a lot of women on the schedule after about 3 in the afternoon. So that would be a logical move for the network. But it's so fresh. I don't have other names to spout out yet.
Well, when you do, I hope you come back on. But I do want to read you one of your tweets. When CNN ended reliable sources, I was offered a final episode, a chance to sign off on my own terms. I really appreciated that. I think viewers did too. Tucker leaving Fox without even saying goodbye, stunning. What does it say that he wasn't even afforded that chance for a final episode?
Well, let me say with the caveat that maybe there's a slight chance that he chose not to sign off, but I don't believe that's the case. I believe it is very clear that this was an ouster by Fox. Some people are going to use the word firing in some ways similar to my departure from CNN. But as I said in that tweet, the difference with my departure from CNN was that I was afforded a chance to sign off and say goodbye. And to a television anchor, that means a lot, but it also means a lot to the viewers because the viewers of Tucker Carlson's show are finding out today on Facebook or Twitter or Truth Social that he's been canceled. But when they tune in at 8 p.m., they're not going to see him. They're not even going to hear from Tucker in his own words. They're not going to hear his explanation or his version of events. They're not going to hear where to go next to watch him. That is a really unusual and very revealing decision by Fox and by Carlson, if in fact it was his call. But look, I've covered television news for 20 years. This was clearly not his call. The question now is, what exactly did cause Fox to pull the plug and cancel the highest rated show on the schedule? And I have some theories, and I'm sure other people do too, but I think time will tell what the answer to that is.
I do want to dive a little deeper there because many reports have been coming out that the people inside Fox were even just as shocked today. Tucker signed off last week saying, we'll see you Monday. Clearly, that's not the case now. Do you think this is connected to the Dominion lawsuit or something else we don't know about? Perhaps the lawsuit from Abby Grossberg, his former producer?
Well, it's notable that the lawsuit from Abby Grossberg describes vile behavior within the Tucker Carlson show. So she alleges sexist behavior by some of the staffers at the show, and that was disturbing to read about in the lawsuit. I think Abby Grossberg may or may not be a factor in this. I think that case probably is a factor, but I think the bigger factor is Dominion. And not for the reason people think. So the Dominion lawsuit was all about defamation, allegations of defamation, that Dominion was defamed by Fox on the air. Tucker Carlson, though, barely came up in the context of the defamation claims. There was one segment involving Mike Lindell that Dominion objected to. But for the most part, Tucker Carlson was seen as a voice who was pushing back on Sidney Powell's lies about voter fraud. So how is Dominion a factor here? Well, Dominion's a factor because of whatever came out in the discovery process that has not been revealed yet. So in the discovery process, Dominion was able to obtain so many emails and text messages from inside Fox. That's how we know Tucker Carlson was calling Trump a demonic force and a destroyer. But there's a lot more that the Dominion discovery process found. There's a lot more they found that's been redacted and has been hidden from the public record. Fox knows what's in the emails, and Dominion knows what's in the emails, but the public doesn't know. I have a strong sense that whatever happened with Tucker Carlson, it's in those redacted emails. Maybe it was unacceptable messages, not behavior, but maybe he or his producers were saying things over email or text message that Fox could not abide by. To be clear, we don't know, but that is why I believe this was linked to Dominion.
Brian, I do want to switch gears now. It seemed like mere minutes after the Tucker Carlson news broke at CNN, your former place of work, that Don Lemon was out. He said he was fired. The network said that they parted ways. First, what's your reaction to those two different wordings of his departure?
Simply put, CNN is trying to be polite, and that's normally what television networks do in cases like this. CNN trying to be polite, trying to frame this as a very ordinary change on the air. But this is nothing but ordinary. And that's because Don Lemon was one of the biggest stars on CNN. He was one of the faces of CNN during the Trump years for his provocative and sometimes polarizing coverage of the Trump years. It was very hard in the Trump years to go on air and call out the daily lies and misbehavior and not be identified a certain way. And Don Lemon he was identified a certain way as a result. My view is he was doing his job. He was doing his job really strongly in those years. But, I think that the impact of the Trump years and the fallout from that is ultimately what this is about. Don Lemon in his statement is hinting at larger issues being at play. Now, he doesn't say this directly, but I think what he's referring to there is the new management of CNN. And again, full disclosure, my show was canceled by the new management last year. And there was speculation back then that politics was a factor. When Warner Brothers Discovery was formed, when Discovery took over CNN and the rest of Warner Media, there was speculation about board member John Malone and his political views affecting CNN. Malone had said on the record that he wanted CNN to have real journalists again, and he complimented Fox News. So there was this idea that maybe he wanted CNN to be more like Fox. That was disturbing to some people at CNN. I reported at the time that was disturbing to some people at CNN. And now I think people are going to wonder if Don Lemon's departure is related to that at all. We don't know. These are going to be theories that are out there. There are going to be other theories about Lemon's behavior on the air, his recent inappropriate comments about Nikki Haley, whether the morning show was working or not. But let's, just be clear about one thing. He was terminated so suddenly. He was on the air this morning, Monday morning. He was on the morning show. And then right afterwards, he was apparently told that he was losing his job and that he won't be back on the air at all. So there's a similarity here. Tucker Carlson, Don Lemon, both men so suddenly leaving that they're not saying goodbye on the air.
Very abrupt. I do think the difference here with Don Lemon is that he was embroiled in that controversy, whether reports about him getting in arguments and rifts with his co-host, his comments about women being in their prime, things like that. So are you surprised about his firing? I know it was abrupt, but he was embroiled in controversy.
I think if Lemon was going to have been removed in the wake of the Nikki Haley controversy, which I thought might happen, then it would have happened a month ago. That if that was going to happen, it would have happened right away. There's not really a logic in having him on the air Monday morning and then terminated Monday at 9 or 10 a.m. It wouldn't, to me, that there's not a direct link between the Nikki Haley controversy and something so sudden today.
And I have one more question for you. You have been covering the media for years now, and you called this, quote, the craziest day in cable news history. What are the implications here of these big news departures for all of cable news?
This is the craziest day in cable news history because we've never seen both networks lose or get lost with their top talent in a single day. Of course, look, CNN and Fox are very different brands. They do very different things. CNN's mostly a news gathering operation. Fox is mostly a Republican Party messaging machine. So they are two different beasts, but they're next to each other on the cable dial. So they are competing by virtue of living next door to each other, even though one is one thing and one is the other. So that's an interesting dynamic. And, I think what it means for cable news is cable news clearly still very relevant. This is one of the biggest stories in the United States today. People still clearly care about these personalities, about these bombastic figures on TV. And that's because ultimately people watch people. Yes, they tune in for the news. Yes, they stream and they tweet and they get the news everywhere. But people like to watch people. They like to spend time with folks they trust. Some on the right trust Tucker Carlson. Others trust Don Lemon. These are trusted figures, even though they're also polarizing figures. And, that is something that's still powerful, even in the TikTok age, even in the Twitter age. This is a reminder of the relevance of cable news. And also, just on a practical matter, it gets back to what you asked earlier. Who's going to replace these two figures? Who's going to take Tucker Carlson's time slot? Who's going to take Don Lemon's spot on the morning show? Those are relevant questions because these networks and these shows are still relevant.
Brian Stelter, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you.